Welcome everyone to another of DNA Business Management Solutions Lunch and Learns for Sage 300. In this presentation today, we have some of our colleagues from North 49 Business Solutions, and we're going to be presenting some of their features that relate to using, communicating with your customers and selling through the web. So please put any questions in the chat and we'll be answering at the end because everybody but the presenters are muted. And without any ado, we'll get started. So Peter, if you want to move to the next slide. So today we are going to have obviously the introduction here, talk a little bit about how North 49 has seen that the pandemic has changed businesses they deal with, and go into a demonstration and a discussion and demonstration about North 49's e-commerce and customer portals. So on the e-commerce side, their Webtelligence product for B2B and B2C web stores integrated to your Sage 300 system, and a very exciting tool, their customer portal, which also integrates to Sage 300, but is more customer focused and a great solution if you're not looking to roll out a web store. And of course, if you need your sales reps to be able to have access to information about your customers, your items, to put in orders, to look up information from your Sage 300, they have a sales reps portal. As I mentioned, we'll get into questions and then a little bit of a discussion about if you want more information. All right. So we have a few poll questions we're going to go through today. I'm going to start the first one now. It is, if you can just answer, give me 1 second. I'm going to launch the poll. Should see it now. The question is, do you currently have a web store or customer self-service portal option now? Please, there's a few answers there. We'll give it a few seconds.
I think I might have to close my share for that poll to work, Will. Is everyone seeing it?
Yeah, people are responding.
Okay, cool. Just
all right, well, we'll keep it open for another 5 seconds, and then I'll close the poll and we can see the response. All right, 3, 2, 1. There we go. So let me just give me 1 second. So basically, let me, I know how to do the poll, don't know how to show the information. Hold on a sec.
It's all a learning curve, Will.
Yes, it is. So, we had 67% people said they have e-commerce capability, but not integrated. And the rest of the respondents said they didn't have any. So thank you for that information. As we go along here, I'll put those up at the end. So I also will get through, continue on with the demonstration, and we will go through with the rest of the presentation. On with me today, I think most of you know me, it's Will Booth. I'm a sales consultant and business solution architect at DNA Business Management Solutions, your Sage 300 business partner. I've been working in this with DNA for more than 15 years, selling Sage solutions, and from some of our great ISV partners like North 49. Before that, I spent many years with IBM selling Intel-based hardware and various other solutions. So we also today are lucky enough to have Peter Graychick, the VP of Sales at North 49, on the line. Peter's been involved with the Sage 300 world for about 30 years. He's held positions with different Sage ISV development partners, and also spent 8 years with Sage. He was actually our Sage customer account manager for a period of time, so we've known Peter a long time. And Etienne Grobler is the founder and CEO of North 49 Business Solutions, the president, and he's the chief product architect. And Etienne's been a fixture in the Sage 300 community for more than he probably wants me to admit, at least 30 years, developing products for Sage 300, starting in South Africa and moved to Canada about 20 years ago, and is a great resource for us all with his broad knowledge of the Sage 300 solution, and of course, the products he's built up with his company over the years, which we'll be talking about more today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Peter to continue on with the presentation and then walk us into the demonstration.
Thank you, Will. A good afternoon, everybody. I do appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all today. So just want to take you over just a few slides here to, excuse me, kind of introduce the concepts of why we're even talking about the solutions that we provide. And it's probably coming as no surprise to a lot of you that things have changed very recently over the past little while. And we always like to use this quote from this gentleman out of BDC, which says that, you know, as a result of the pandemic, more and more businesses and customers are coming to, well, customers particularly are coming to experience this new level of convenience that they're getting because of this working remotely and businesses having to adapt to serve them. And I think it's a pretty widely held sentiment that things aren't going to go back to the way they were prior to the pandemic, because we've just begun to realize how easy it is to do business from anywhere at any time, basically on our terms and not on the terms of the businesses that we're working with. So I think we're going to see a pretty significant shift in how folks want to do business with you, even in a business-to-business environment. I mean, largely this was driven, you know, historically by business to consumer type of trends, but that's all spilling over into our personal lives. And we're starting to want this same level of convenience and service in our business lives. And so even before 2020, these were kind of the numbers that we were seeing here. A lot of business buyers were doing most of their research online for their purchases. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. But the middle number there is a really surprising one, that almost all of them want to buy online once they figured out what they want to buy. And more than half expect to make at least half of their business purchases online. So those are pretty significant numbers, but that was pre-pandemic. And there's been a significant shift since the pandemic hit, and that's out of necessity. It's not because, you know, we wanted to do it because, you know, we thought that was the next greatest thing to do. The situation demanded it. And so we've seen that increase by 24% over the past year, with 3/4 of the people who responded to this survey by Essential Retail saying that they want to buy from an online platform. And that bottom line there, that 43%, that's a fairly staggering number. Those are the customers who decided to switch vendors because their vendor did not provide online order capabilities. Now, you don't want to find yourself in that situation. You kind of want to be ahead of that curve, or at least get on the same page with all these customers. You don't want to lose them to somebody else who had the foresight, you know, and the knowledge, I guess, to go ahead and to create these online capabilities for their customers. So, Will, I think we can have our second poll question. You still there, Will?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I clicked the mute button. That's great. And before I do that, I'm just going to present or share the results of the first one, Peter.
Okay.
So there was the results. Some have web stores and self-service options now, but not integrated, and some of the others do not. So I'm going to hide that and ask the second one, the second poll question. I'm going to launch it here now. So please, if you can go in and click on the answers. Have your customers been asking for online capabilities such as a B2B or B2C web store, or even just a portal to, you know, be as simple as see and reprint their invoices and potentially pay those invoices and maybe even put in a new order? Because and if you have sales reps that are out talking to customers or calling on the phone through the phone, and they want to have a portal to put that kind of order in the system without having to log into Sage 300, if that's something that you're interested, your people have been asking for, feel free to say yes here too. All right, so I'm gonna leave that open for another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, and let's share the results of that. So yes, we have quite a few people on the phone that are getting asked by some of this by their clients or their staff to have this capability. All right, great. So there we go.
Thanks, Will. I will carry on.
All right.
So I guess what all this leads up to is if you haven't done anything about this yet, it's time. Clearly, the stats from the prior slides indicate that you can't really afford not to take some steps. Now, it doesn't mean you have to jump, all feet in or head first into going full on web store and all that stuff. There are interim steps that you can take, and that's kind of what our customer portal is all about. It's kind of like your first, if you don't have any experience going that route yet, it's your first sort of foray into providing online services for your customers. And we'll get into the live product and you can see what it does. And it's no longer the domain of just the big players, all the big box stores. Budgets are very affordable for mid-market companies, small to mid-market companies to afford this stuff. And you'll see that from the customer portal. It's a very affordable way for you to get online to serve your customers. Going on to a full web store does bear more cost, of course, because it is a much more involved process, but still, it's not significant like it was several years ago. And it's crucial that these systems be integrated to your back office accounting, because if they're not, it just creates another workload for your staff to have to deal with, especially if you're talking about a web store. You've got products up on the web, you've got products sitting inside of Sage 300. You want to make sure that they're all current and that the pricing is current, and it's customer specific pricing as well. And especially in a B2B environment, Sage 300 has all kinds of options to set up different pricing structures for different customers, contract pricing, the ABCD discount levels, sale pricing, all that stuff. And based upon who that customer is, they may be eligible for different pricing, and in fact, even eligible for different products. So you can restrict what a customer sees based upon what's on his price list, and it will display the prices that are available to them that you have set up. And it'll also respect their terms code. So that's the beauty of the integration on that side of things. It makes the maintenance of the website very easy because it's all maintained within Sage 300. And then the orders automatically get put into Sage 300 as well, either as orders or quotes. They can be active orders, they can be on hold so someone can review them. All that stuff happens automatically. Nobody has to babysit that process. So one size does not fit all. There's lots of platforms out there that provide web stores. You got your Shopify's and your Magentos of the world. And they're great if you're going to do strictly, say, a B2C thing, because that's a much easier thing to deal with. But when you start talking about business to business, it gets a lot more complicated. There's a lot more nuances, some of the things I mentioned earlier, that you have to deal with. And they don't do a particularly good job of doing that from an integration standpoint. So do your homework. Make sure you check out all your options. I don't think you're going to find significant differences in cost going with a fully integrated solution as opposed to one of those other solutions. So get educated. It's time well spent to learn the different options that are out there. And certainly we hope that you'll consider us if you're going down that road. So North 49, Will talked about this a little bit at the outset. We've been a development partner. Well, Etienne has been developing products for a long time. North 49's been around for more than 15 years. And that's kind of when Webtelligence, our e-commerce product, came into fruition. And we've been developing and expanding it ever since we've had that. And we continue to update it, add new features and functionality. Some years ago, we used to have a bunch of products for Sage 300, and some years ago, Sage bought them all from us. And they actually had us write them directly into the Sage 300 source code. So what that does is gives us insight into how Sage 300 works that probably very few people out there have. There's few companies out there who have access to that Sage 300 source code, and we happen to be one of them. And what that means is that we can develop an integrated product like nobody else. When we integrate a product, we integrate it very deeply into Sage 300. We respect all of the business logic rules inside there, and we can make it work just like it's part of Sage 300, and that's really the intent here. And we're also on the sort of pre-release beta program as an ISV with Sage, and that means that we get advanced notification and release of all this stuff. So our products are compatible with new Sage 300 releases before they ever hit the street, and that's a guarantee that we provide. We will always be compatible with the current version of Sage. And we do go back several versions, so we can support a lot of different versions of Sage 300. So we're going to talk today about, we're going to start with our customer portal, and Etienne's going to dive into the product itself and show you what it looks like and how it behaves. We've got our sales portal, which can be a component of either the customer portal or part of our web store. It can be either way, depends upon how much features and functionality that you need as to where it might get deployed. And then, of course, we're going to talk about our integrated web store, which is a full e-commerce platform that can sing, dance, and make coffee, do whatever you need it to do. Anything that you would ever see in a web store do, we can certainly do with Webtelligence. And Etienne's going to show you components of all of these things when he goes through that presentation. So, Will, I think we have one more poll question.
Yes, we do. Let me start that question. So, have you found it harder to collect payments from customers in the past several months? So please go ahead and see, choose your answer there, and we'll show the results in a minute. So, okay, we'll keep it open for a couple more, 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. So, yeah, some people are finding it. A good third of the people that responded are finding that. Some not so much. So there we go. And I'll turn it back to you, Peter.
Thank you. Well, that's
Peter.
my bit, my preamble bit. So I'm going to turn it over to Etienne, and hopefully he can unmute. Are you? Yeah, he looks like he's good to go. So
yeah. I need to make him the presenter here. So
may. Or do I just need to stop something here? I'll see what you can do first before I act on anything.
I'm going to make you the presenter.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. See my screen okay? Well,
yeah,
a very blank one. Okay, well, thank you. I get the fun part. I can kind of zip through the product and show features. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box, and we'll try and answer them. Typically, I don't keep much of an eye on that while I'm going through the product.
I'll look after that. I'll let you know. The only thing I would just say, Etienne, would you agree, and Peter, when you're dealing, if you're going to have an integrated B2B e-commerce site, it's probably, in fact, lower cost to go with one that's already integrated, like Webtelligence, than trying to build a custom integration to another solution that doesn't have any capability to already integrate the logic that's built into pricing and customers in Sage 300. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely on a certain level. As Peter said, if you are strictly going business to consumer, it typically is less complicated in terms of building pricing models and so on. What does become a challenge is getting those orders back into Sage 300. And typically one would then end up with administrative overhead to collect those orders and push them in. Well, that's okay if you're doing 5 a day. You could almost recapture them manually. If the volumes grow, the problem becomes one of integration. How do you integrate that back, and how do you integrate back in a fashion where Sage is going to accept that document? So pulling an order in sounds very simple, but it really becomes fairly complicated when you try and align pricing models, tax models, all the data that needs to come in from a customer. How do you deal with a customer that doesn't have an AR account in the system, and so on? So even if the actual let's call it manufacturing costs of that website, the cost of bringing that website live is on par with what a fully integrated system might be, the administration cost moving forward is going to be substantially higher. When we move to a B2B market, that just explodes, because there is no way in which you're going to make a non-integrated website that's not been built for that purpose to understand all the pricing models, contract pricing, customers, credit limits, and so on. And so for a well-integrated, feature-full business to everyone model really would be a cost-effective solution to look at an integrated product.
All right. And I'll update you if there's any questions as we go along. Any more questions?
Thank you, Will. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. As Peter introduced, we'll be looking at both the customer portal and the full product. Probably easier just to start with the customer portal. The customer portal is primarily outward facing. So this is what your customers are going to be looking at, what they will be logging into. It is really simple to implement, to deploy. If you call us now, we can have you up and running before you go home this evening, kind of quickly. It will be a new button on your current website, whatever that might be, which just says click here to log in, or accounts, or whatever it might be. And you can get your customer logged in and self-serving themselves. In its most basic form, what the customer portal will do is allow you to do what we call quick pay or click to pay, where you send out an invoice to your customer, and on that invoice you've got a link. They click that link and they can come in and pay that invoice. I've marked this up in a Word document here, but it really could be anything. It could be in the email you send out to the customer. It could be in a PDF with a clickable button that says click here to pay this invoice. I've just marked one up in a Word document here, but the concept remains the same. And it is pretty simple in that you are simply sending the website, sending the customer off to the website with his customer number and the invoice number attached. And that's literally all you're going to send through. And so here we've got Ronald Black bought from us, invoice number 61. That was the amount on the invoice. And we're going to send Ronald Black off to go pay this. Hello, Ronald, thank you. Here's your invoice attached to this email. Now click here and pay us. Or I'm going to send Will to come and hunt you down. And you'll see if I hover on that link there, it really is just the customer number and the invoice number that we require. When the user clicks that, we're going to open up the customer portal for them on that page. And as we enter that page, we will then verify that this invoice is payable. So we have gone up, we've looked up this invoice, we've extracted the number directly from Sage. We know it's Ronald Black, we know the invoice date, etc. And we're going to give him the go-ahead to go and pay this invoice. Based on your payment portal and the ability to pay with different means, you may or may not have the ability for them to pay with electronic check or by credit card. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pay this quickly. When the user then clicks that, we'll take them off to your payment portal. So we'll say this invoice number 61 for Ronald Black, etc. Give me the card number. Let's just fill one in here. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's give us a slightly larger expiration date and go ahead and pay the invoice. When the user then clicks to pay that invoice, that payment is made directly onto your payment portal. And the user immediately gets a receipt back. So here is the receipt. The user can go ahead and print a copy of that receipt. They can save a PDF copy of that receipt, etc. And it's now been paid. This receipt immediately gets also emailed back to you as the merchant. You get notified of this. Within notification, just going to divert rabbit trail ever so slightly. In the setup of the system, you may choose to be notified of any payment either through email or through Microsoft Teams, if you're running that, or through a product called Slack. And those notifications happen real time, directly, immediately. You get notified that that's happened. So what I'll do here is I'll just pull up our Slack here, our MS Teams, and show you the notification that I've received. So over here, Portal AR, here is it. Ronald Black has made a payment of invoice number 61 for that amount. So this is real-time notification of what's happening on the system. If we have time,
can I just add a point of clarification here, Etienne, as far as the payment processor is concerned? And I don't think you mentioned this, but we're largely agnostic as to who your payment processor is. So we've integrated to several, and we have committed to integrate to every major processor in North America. And so whether you could pay by credit card or by check or electronic check or whatever, that's a function of who your payment processor is and how your account is set up. So just wanted to make a point of clarification there in case that wasn't mentioned.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, this has now been paid. I did open up the Sage 300 in the background that is hosting this portal that we're looking at here. And so if we go back and look at this portal, let's go to AR transactions. Let's pull up a receipt batch here. And here is that entry that we've just made. So this entry is written real time back into the system. Ronald Black has paid invoice number 61 for that amount, and it's ready. So there literally is no replication or no recapturing of any data at this point. We can go ahead and just for argument's sake do that again. So let's go back here. The guy comes back, he re-clicks that button again. We will pull up that same screen again. We will go ahead and verify this document and then tell him this invoice is no longer available for payment. It has been paid. So when the user then clicks the document, we will at that point go back, check the current status of that document, and allow him to continue or not. Okay, that's click to pay. That is the simplest rollout of this product. It literally simply gives the user the ability to go and pay an invoice as they receive it. Let's go through and log into the product then. When you as a merchant chooses to deploy a full portal system, this is the login screen. On this, there are a number of components here. So this will be your logo. If we do have a chance, I'll log in as an administrator and just show you how easily this is set up. So we've left a fair amount of room here for that logo. So it's quite possible for you to embed text here. So you could say, you know, Sample Company Inc., we do things better. So use that as marketing. This would be your welcome message. This will be how you want to show that welcome message, the login information, etc. We are multilingual. Currently, we have both an English and a French version running, so your user may choose what they want to look at the portal at. In terms of registration, a new registration, you can allow self-registration, or you may simply tell the system to send you an email that somebody wants access and you can do the registration on their behalf. If you self-register, the user will be asked, who are you? And then a verification question, what's the zip code on the AR account, or what is the last invoice number or the last payment amount? This is something you will set up internally based on how strictly how detailed you want that verification to be and the user to be able to access that. We have enforced password protection here, so it needs to be 6 characters, 1 digit, 1 alpha, non-alphanumeric character, etc. Okay, let's log in. When the user logs in, typically the first thing they'll see is some sort of message if you choose to do that. This message is maintained inside of accounts receivable in the comment field. So if we just go back to our accounts receivable here, if we go to customers and we call up Ronald Black, we will see that Ronald Black has under comments this web category here. And here is that comment that we are seeing. Note to viewer, this pop-up message, blah, blah, blah. Note to viewer, this pop-up message. So this is the message which the user is going to see. This allows you to communicate one-on-one with your customer. Hello, Bob, happy birthday. or Ronald, please contact us, your credit card's going to expire. Whatever you want to do on a one-on-one basis with a customer, all you need to do is go into the accounts receivable, create a comment by the type web, type in that comment, and the user is going to see that. When the user, on the other hand, clicks OK, we change the comment type from web to web ac or web acknowledged, telling you that the customer has seen that message and they've acknowledged it. So when the customer then goes ahead and presses the OK button, you will know that the customer has seen that. If you really want to dig in, you can literally go to the order date stamp of this record and see when date and time the customer clicked that OK button. So on the other end here, the customer clicks OK. We have then acknowledged that message on the other side. There is also what we call a broadcast. A broadcast is a everybody that logs into the system is going to see this message, so it's not a one-on-one specific thing. And a broadcast could be, you know, our latest COVID hours, or how can we serve you, or you know, happy Canada Day. We likewise will keep record of which users have seen that broadcast, and once they've seen it, we will not show it to them again. So we'll check that off on the system. You've seen this message, you won't see it again. When you enter a new broadcast message, or when you reset that counter on the admin side, it will pop up and be shown again. Okay. Let's have a look, just drill down into account activity. Account activity is a snapshot of that account. I have not specifically said that, but we do not maintain any data on the portal. And none of what you will see on this portal is maintained on our servers. It is literally requested from your Sage 300 when the user presses that button. That means a number of things. First of all, it's absolutely secure. There is nothing for a hacker to hack here. The data does not sit on our servers. It's not available. In order to be approved by Sage as an ISV, we've gone through what's called pen test or penetration testing on this product to make sure it's secure. And so this data is absolutely secure. There's no way somebody can get at your data, A, because it's not here, and B, because our system has been tested to withstand that kind of attack. So this data was read real time out of your internal system. Displayed here again, as I've said, we've got both English and French versions available. We are working on any other version that's any person may request. So if there are requests for Spanish, for example, which I think is in the works, we'll gladly cooperate to get those versions out and make them available for your users to use. Okay, account activity, what's your balance, what's your last payments, here's your address, and then there are 3 years of sales data here. This is sample data, so it looks a little bit odd here. Again, because we don't store any data on our system, this is read real time. If you employ the portal this afternoon, this data is going to be available. It does not need to accumulate on our system to show that data. Move on to view transactions. View transactions allows the user to literally look at transactions. That's what we do here. Number of transactions per page, show all only or open. Open only are those with a current balance. So open would be show me my current status or my current statement. Transaction types, how do I want to drill down? You do control which of these are available to a customer. So you may choose to only show them, say, invoices and receipts rather than all of that. You can turn those on and off. You will see that invoice number 61, which we paid earlier, here it is, shows as paid already on the system. And remember, you have not had to do anything at this point. There was no posting taking place. So we will look at open batches to determine the status of a particular document. So if you receive a check through the mail, you process that in, waiting for your batch to post this afternoon, it is going to show as paid immediately. At this point, the user can also drill into a particular document here, of course, as one would expect. They will get a copy of that document and what it looks like. If this document was generated in order entry, we'll go to order entry to fetch the detail of the document. If it was generated in accounts receivable, likewise, we'll pull the information out of receivable so that the system will see on the transaction type what the originating system in Sage is, and it will go to that originating system to pull up that document and show the detail of that document. Again, the user can at this point go ahead and print a copy. If required, this copy can be modified to look like your current invoice. Print it to a printer, PDF it, whatever I want to do with that copy is now available for me to do with that copy. So you're giving your customer the opportunity to look at this. And where we're dealing with receipts, for example, we will show the customer what that receipt was applied against. So here is a receipt for $1,700. We can see that it's been fully applied. And so when I drill into that receipt, I expect to see the receipt, and it was applied against invoice number 38. So again, here the customer can go ahead and print themselves a copy of that receipt if they want to do that. You really have put control over self-serve on the documentation on your customer side. So no more calls of, I have lost that invoice, or can you send me a copy? It's available here for the customer to have a look at. Right, let's move on to paying an account online. I'm going to just kind of skip over one of the functions that you may choose to implement or not is the ability for your customer to store a credit card so they don't have to re-enter it every time. Just to be absolutely clear, we do not store the credit card. We store what's called a token, so we're not stepping on the wrong side of PCI compliance. And the user can then use that token. If you are using an integrated payment solution like Paya, we will go a step further and not store that online, but store that inside your Sage 300. So here we're looking at Ronald Black, is the customer here. And Ronald Black has two cards stored. These two cards, we've told the system it can find inside of Sage 300. So likewise, we go back to Ronald Black over here, and we look at credit cards, and here we have them. One of them has been made inactive, and an inactive card will not show. So the two we're seeing online are the two active cards of the system. One of them has expired, and so of course that expired card is showing up expired on the system here. When we give the customer the option to delete a record, we don't actually delete it, we simply mark it as inactive. And that will be that inactive card. So these cards are not stored on our system. In this case, they are stored inside of Sage. If you choose, we can store them because we're still on the right side of PCI. We're not storing the card, we're simply storing the token. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Pay Account. This will bring up a list of the user to pay. Typically, it won't be this long. Remember, we're in sample data and everybody's going ahead and having a go at the system, so we end up with really odd kind of data here. The user can go ahead and select all if they want to just pay the entire account. But let's go ahead and remember we paid invoice number 61 earlier, so it's not showing. So let's pay, the next range up here, and we're just going to pay those invoices. So we've selected $1,700 worth of invoices to pay, and we then say, okay, go ahead and make the payment. Again, based on how you've set this up and what systems you have available, we will show you any usable card and the default that you've selected on that card. The user may add a new card if they want to. They have the option to either save that card or not. And if your gateway allows, then again, you'll be able to pay with check or ACH. Typically, if a card has been stored and the user has selected that as a default payment option, then really all we need to do at this point is say make a payment. Here is what's going to be paid. We go ahead and make the payment. And because the user is using a card now that already exists, we do not have to go and take him off to that card processing screen like we did with the quick payment. So he gets an immediate result over here. Again, he can go ahead and print this if he wants to do that. This has been entered into accounts receivable in a receipt batch. I am belaboring this, but hopefully it will serve some purpose. If we look at that receipt batch, remember receipt number 1 was our invoice number 61. Receipt number 2 is that list of invoices that was paid online. No processing necessary, not necessary for you to do anything up to this point. And of course, when we then go back and say pay the account again, those invoices number 65 through to 60 or 62 to 65 has been removed. They're no longer available for payment. They have been paid. Okay, I think we've dealt with payments in some detail. Let's move on to orders. If you do use order entry, and you do choose to put that onto your system, then of course the first thing you'll be able to do is let the user have a look at order entry and what's going on within their order entry system. Again, number of transactions you want to view. Just incidentally, I have not touched on this before, but the system was written in its entirety to work on mobile devices. So, if I pull this down to a narrow view here, I can still view everything that's going on inside my system. And I'll show that specifically on some other screens, just to kind of reiterate that point. And so here we're looking at order entry. I can take a very quick look at a particular order. I've got a calculator on order here. We do have the ability to deal with quotes in a very specific way. Instead of letting somebody post an order, you can let them post a quote or a request for a quote. If you do use quotes internally inside the system, you have the ability then to show that quote to the customer if you choose to do that. And you can make the user deal with it in a specific way. Now, remember, what you're doing here is you showing your quote out to the customer, or a customer requested a quote and pushed the document into the system from the portal. So the portal will allow the customer to request a quote if you allow that functionality. You can then take that quote, deal with it, and approve it. And so you'll see I've got a couple of quotes here. So I have a quote waiting for approval. So this quote has been posted by the customer. Here's a bunch of lines, and it's waiting for me to approve that quote inside the system. When I approve that quote, it then becomes approved. The customer can see the items on that quote that we've approved from them, and they can go ahead and turn that quote into an order if they choose to do that. So you've taken that ability then for the user to request the quote, you review the quote, you approve the quote, and if the quote's been approved, the user can go ahead and place the order. When we're looking at invoiced orders on the system, here is a line. We can then go ahead and say, okay, you may view this invoice if you want to, so the user can click. This was invoiced with invoice number 62, which we paid a little while ago. And from this point on, the user can actually go ahead and click on that and have a look at invoice number 62, print a copy, and do everything we expect them to be able to do with that quote. Also on an order, if we look at a particular order, we can also drill into a detail of that order rather than just, the quick cursory overview. Looking at order entry, we also have the ability to view by order or view by items. If I view by items, I'm really looking at a back order list of items that I have on order here. It'll give me the order number. Again, I can click onto that order and have a look at that order in a little bit more detail. So this is the order review. Here again, we show all or open only. Open only means those orders which have not been entirely shipped. We can look at all orders, active, future, standing, so we can narrow our list down, for example, to quotes here if we want to do that. So it really does give the user a fair amount of control over what they want to see. Right. Finally, or almost finally, I would guess, is let's have a look at order entry. If you want your customer to place orders online, you can do so. There's a number of rules regarding this. What price list do we use, or do we use the customer's price list? Do you want to show certain detail on the order, etc.? If we have a little bit more time, I'll drill into that detail for you. Remember that we don't have any of this data here, so everything that the user does on this form is verified and read directly against your Sage 300 system. And again, this is going to work pretty well even on a mobile device. So a user may choose one of the ship to addresses attached to the AR account in accounts receivable, or they can enter a new address if they want to. They can enter a PO number here, DNA, demo, let's do this. They can request a delivery date, so, drop these things off on the 28th for me, and hello world, please ship ASAP via FedEx. Once they've done this, if they want to kind of shift that out of the way so that they, it doesn't interfere with their screen, they can go ahead and do so. Let's have a look at how we will then show items to them. I'm going to do the calculator thing again because I've set up a few items which is going to match very nicely for what we want to do. The user from this point forward can be keyboard driven, so they do not need to use a mouse to be doing the entering here. They enter some detail and we will then go look up that information. They can enter either a piece of the description or a piece of the item number or anything contained in additional item information 1, 2, 3, and 4 on that item. If you use customer item numbers in Sage 300, they can type in their own item number and they're going to come up with the item. We'll do a cross lookup and show them the item that they're looking for. So if I type in Cal, I'm going to get, calendar pad, calculator, everything which matches that. If I go ahead and type in, I don't know, 401, I expect to see all the products which matches that description. In its most basic form then, when the user does add an item to the list, we're just simply going to show them that. So item 1 for desk calendar pad, quantity 1. If there are units of measure, we'll allow them to override that. There's an option to allow price override either for the user and or salesperson. So if I log in as a sales rep, I can override the price here, extended price, etc. Let's turn this on then. The second level of detail we may want to show somebody is a little bit more descriptive information. So if we go to calculator here and we add that onto the list, we're going to pop this up. So calculator, additional, these are the 4 additional item information lines on the inventory control record. Quantity, price, again, the overrides will depend on the rights I have to do this and what you've set up in the portal. And then finally, we can show the person even a multiple of pictures. So if we then go ahead and say, okay, let's do that calculator where I know I've got a picture attached to it, this is what the user is going to see. If there were multiples, they can scroll through this. These pictures can either be stored on our server, on the portal server, or you can store it somewhere, Dropbox, or OneDrive, or anywhere where the system can get access to those pictures, and we can show them up on the screen for you. I have now entered my 3 items, and I'm ready to go ahead and place this order. These boxes will show the ability to place a quote if I had that ability, and it will either be and or, however you set up the portal here. And this is written directly into Sage 300. So we've gone ahead and created order number 78. User can, of course, go ahead. This is going to be emailed out to the user, so the user is going to get an email copy of this. Again, this is going to be shown even on our Teams or Slack. We're going to get a copy of it. So here is the payment. So these are the 2 payments that were made. Portal order entry notification, customer 1200 Ronald Black has placed an order for those 3 things. So that notification happens instantly. It's available to the customer the moment that it happens. And this is going to be emailed out. The customer is going to receive a copy of this order confirmation. They can go ahead and print themselves a copy of this order confirmation if they want to. We can go back into our ACPAC over here, or Sage 300. Sorry, I've been at this way too long. Go to transactions, order entry, and the last order that was processed will be order number 78. There we go. There are the 3 items we ordered. This was entered on the portal by me, so we're going to tell you who entered this. The status here is entered by electronic commerce. We have the detail, the comment, hello world, please do this. Within the order number, we've placed a DNA demo, was the PO number we put into this. So this document's been written directly into Sage 300. You may choose to enter these on hold as they come in, so they'll just simply be on hold. So somebody internally comes in the morning or midday or whatever they want to do, they do a lookup, and they simply say the order source equals, electronic commerce, and there is a list of your orders. If you want to refine this, just say electronic commerce on hold, and that's going to show you everything that's on hold and everything that you need to deal with very quickly. Review, release, and get it shipped out the office. So it's that simple. You've taken the ability for the customer to place an order and put it onto the web. It happens really quickly. We do not propose this as a business to consumer alternative. It certainly isn't. It's not intended to be that, but it is a very quick way within a certain set of parameters where you can get your customers to go online and place orders online. Okay, I think that kind of wraps up more or less the customer portal. A couple more things here. Ronald Black can have a look at his account, can change the password, etc. There is a contact us form. This will both email and also post the contact request on your Slack or your Microsoft Teams if you've employed that. And so that is the customer facing side of it. With a little bit of time, I think I'm just going to squeeze us through. Will, how much time? We almost out of time here, aren't we?
We're running up at the top of the hour here, Etienne, so I wonder
Okay.
the best use of our time would maybe to launch into some Webtelligence discussion here. I
Okay.
think we've only got 5 minutes left. Will, what's
do.
Yeah, we can keep going, but yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. If you want to ask that question afterwards and we want to stay on a little longer, I'll be happy to log us into the administration side of the portal, perhaps show what a salesperson can or cannot do, and what you will be able to do as the administrator of your own portal, see statistical data, control what's going on inside there, etc. Let's launch into to Webtelligence, and I'll try and go really fast here. Step number one, which we do, is when we accept a new project, we go through a fairly detailed design of what the site is going to look like. We understand that conceptually, there's a lot of common functionality between sites. Placing an order is placing an order, recognizing prices and taxes, and all of those things are just common functionality. But the workflow, the user integration with the worksite differs from site to site. Very clearly, your website's not going to look anything like Caterpillar Heavy Equipment or like Victoria's Secret. And so step number one of doing any site is going through a detailed design of that site. You may employ somebody different to do that if you choose to do, to get an external firm to do that, but we do have internal graphic designers that can deal with the site. And as we go through here, there's a number of these sites which I actually want to show you. One of them will be Fragment. And so in the design of Fragment, you'll see that literally every page of Fragment here has been laid out and designed down to what the portal or the checkout function is going to be, what the top screens are going to look like, etc. So we'll go into a fairly detailed design of what a particular site will look like. Let me show you through some live sites. These are our sites currently up and running. I chose three or four different ones just because they have different functionality. Vicenza, retail, sells business to consumer, very high value, high level cabinetry hardware. They have kind of the scrolling thing at the top, our product highlights. So this is what we want you to look at. Shop by product category in kind of a graphic way here, our Pinterest account, sign up for a newsletter, our Facebook account, etc. They can also drill down by product family or by product category. If we go look at a family, we can drill down. We now have everything in that design family kind of grouped together. We can filter down, show me only towel bars and towel rings. Or only quick ship. Quick ship are those which are literally in stock waiting to be shipped. Here they are. Let's drill a little deeper in. When we get to a particular product, you'll see that they have the ability to have a huge amount of information here. So description, download a catalog, download a towel bar installation instructions. There could be videos here, etc. We've got specifications, care and maintenance, and so on. This product comes in different sizes. So I want an 18-inch, It also comes in different finishes, so I want an antique brass copy of that. The picture is going to adjust to that. Go ahead and add this to my cart. It's a $360 towel bar. I do not have any in my house. This is a fairly comprehensive retail thing. I know it's higher end, so we don't have kind of the Amazon, 50 products on a page kind of selection, although that is strictly a user design functionality. Fragment is a bit of a hybrid. Fragment will do both business to consumer and business to business. They'll retail. They do have both a US and a Canadian site that just also determines pricing and availability. We do control availability. One of the methods we do that would be via price lists. So if there are products available in the US which are not on Canadian, simply add them to the US price list and not to the Canadian one, and they won't be available, and vice versa. Very clear and neat layout here. So if we go to hitch mounts, we can have a look at all the available hitch mounts there. Here again, everything we do is going to be compatible with any device that they want to do this on, and they can then go ahead and drill a little deeper into any particular product, get information. Again, we've got description, technical specification. Over here you can actually see they've got a video posted. They host the video on YouTube because that kind of gives them a double whammy in terms of marketing and access, which is a good idea. You can host this on the site, but it is better where you can get even the video to deal as marketing material. Technical specifications, spare parts, list of spare parts, accessories for this, and other resources if you want to have a look at other resources. Magura, likewise. Magura is more of a retail wholesale environment again. Again, a very clear and neat layout here of what the site should look like. Finally, let's go to Tiptop, just because Tiptop is so unique in what it does. Tiptop has two websites, a Canadian and a US one. Unlike Fragment, where they control that through a drop-down here, Tiptop chose to have two entirely different sites. They look different, they react differently, they have different layouts and so on. What's unique about Tiptop is that they decided to design a very non-cluttered website. The argument here was that very often Tiptop sells HVAC equipment, and the argument here was that a guy would be sitting on a roof servicing an HVAC and he needs a part for it. He's going to pull out his phone. We don't want to blast him with a whole bunch of images and flashing things going by. We just want him to go in and sell. And so they designed their website to do exactly that. Also, they want to be the go-to source for information on anything. So I have got a particular product. I want to have a look at the specifications of that product. I want to go to Tiptop to find that. But they won't sell to the end user. They will only sell to registered users. So when an end user comes up and they say, and they've got to find a dealer function here, but they say, okay, I want to have a look at a particular product. And of course, we can do that through a search here. But let me just roll into this product. And you'll see that there's no pricing attached here. There's no buy option. Cannot do this. They put a French description on every item together with the English one. I think they just used an optional field, so it's really simple for them to control that. Multiple images, of course, product information. Look at that heap there, related products. Documentation here, so they have even an exploding parts list in PDF format attached to that particular product, and it's going to pop that up hopefully soon. There we go. And so here is my exploding parts list of what happens there. So they've really made themselves the go-to for any detail on any product. Again, they've got a video customers also bought. Let me log in. And once I've logged in, you'll see the change in the nature of that site. And we do have a test account here with their permission. There you go. So I'm not logging into a live account, just to let you know what you see here is a test account. When the user logs in now, they land on an account page. Our monthly flyers are available here. I would have liked a slightly more colorful picture than that. Our account activity, remember we saw components of this inside of the portal. This is just a very a less graphical view of the same thing. So here is my account detail. They've added additional information here, so they can go and have a look at their purchase history of particular products, and they can reorder. So they can go and have a look at old invoices posted in the system, and then call up an invoice and say, I want to reorder data or reorder parts that was on that particular invoice. This is now integrating back into their system, so this delays their system replying to us. Here, very simply, I want to reorder one of those again and go ahead and add that back into my order, so they can look back at old orders, old invoices, and reorder data that was there before. They also have a favorites list here, so that's their wish list. There can be multiples of them if you choose to do that. They've got tutorials and so on. They also have what we call a quick order pad here, and so that would be, again, a somewhat similar flavor to what we saw in the portal, except this is a lot less complicated. We already know where they want to ship these things, and they're going to go through a checkout process anyway. And so here the guy can just kind of rapid fire and enter information here as he wants to. So if we want our shampoo back. Also, what we did here is we do not require any input from the user to bring up the searcher. If the user stops typing for a certain period of time, and I think it's half a second in this case, we will execute an automatic search, so that this becomes really easy on a cell phone where we don't have an enter key, we do not have a mouse with us. The user needs to be able to very quickly enter these things and go ahead and place an order for them.
The reason, if I can just interject for a second there, Etienne, the reason that the web store is a bit different than the customer portal, and as Etienne mentioned, with the customer portal, we have no data. We read it live out of Sage. Now with Webtelligence, the web store, we do both. We read live and we feed live into Sage, but we also replicate data because you want that web store up and running regardless if Sage is up and running in the back office. So there is a data replication process, so all your products and whatnot are on the web. That makes this searcher process a little different for us because we now have that data. We can act on it in a different fashion.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Pete. And so Tiptop, by design, again, was written in a fashion where it can be accessed very quickly. So if we go back to that same spot now, I forget where we were, I think it was over there. Now we can see that we see the product. We can actually have a quantity. The price is determined in their case by customer based on the prices that customers attach to. They can add to cart, they can add that to the wish list, and likewise when they draw into the same product. What we didn't see before we logged in was our ability to purchase this product. So now I do see a price. The system knows who I am. It's fetched my price off my price list. That's what I see. It is unique to me. We will honor any contract and other pricing in the system, and I can go ahead and purchase this product. And I think with that, I think I need to take a break. I have overshot. I do apologize. I'll just kind of take a break and ask for questions. Anything you want me to rabbit trail into, we'll be happy to do that.
All right. Well, thanks, Etienne. That's like I always say, it's like drinking from a fire hose. But we really wanted to give everybody kind of an overview of some of the features and functions that you've added to your solutions especially over the last year, both on the customer and sales rep portal side, as well as on the full e-commerce side. So with that, Peter, I think we'll just jump into some questions here, and then maybe Etienne, we can once we answer the questions, we can just jump in and maybe show a little bit about what the sales reps could do. So give me 1 second here. I'll just go in. The first question I had was, what are the system requirements for the customer portal, going back to when we started?
Okay, good question. Very little. You need very obviously an internet connection because we're going to communicate directly with your internal system. Internally, very, very little. We do not require you to have an internet server running there. If I go back to the Sage system here, we install a component called Connect. Connect sits on your system. This is it. This is what Connect looks like. Now, this allows you to turn on and off the Connect. We do so through a web service from IP to IP. So all you need to do is open your firewall to accept communication from our specific IP address. So we're not exposing your system to everybody that wants access to it. So this is it. This is the entirety of what you require. When we set this up, we will come and help with what those connections look like. Each one of those connections attaches to, a Sage profile, to a particular database, et cetera. But the requirements internally is extremely light. If you have an internet connection which is reasonable, the system's going to work.
And just to expand on that a little bit, Will, we do require a Sage user license, typically for our exclusive access. That's how we get that communication going, and an internal static IP address on the customer side or on the merchant side.
And a certificate too?
I'm sorry?
You need a web security certificate as well?
An SSL certificate?
Yeah.
I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it is recommended.
Yeah. I can perhaps clarify on that. So thank you, Peter, for the licensing. Yes, we do require a Sage license. When we write data into your Sage system, we do so using the Sage technology that ensures compatibility, ensures we're not going to break if you upgrade your Sage. It is just the right way to do it without putting your Sage system at peril. And in order to do that, we need a license to log in and process that data. The securities, the SSL, we do require one now since we've gone through pen testing. Our system will not work if you do not attach a SSL. Having said that, we can do that for you. So you may just tell us, go ahead and put an SSL on. There's a cost to that. Or if you're going to put the portal onto your existing web page and you have an umbrella SSL and you subdomain the portal. So if your web page is called abc.com and you make this portal.abc.com, then that current security certificate is going to cover the portal and it will work.
Okay, perfect. That's very interesting. And related to that, then the question that always comes, what's the cost of the customer portal? So aside from what you just talked about on the back end and having a Sage user, I think they're probably asking about the portal itself.
Right. Let me navigate us to our website. There is a layout here. We do charge annually in advance, so click to pay would be $7.95 annually. The portal without any payment is $14.95, and then you can add payments, add store cards, and add order entry. This is on our webpage, and it will be available through Will. You can just give him a yell, and he'll be able to get the pricing for you.
And just to clarify that, sorry, the click to pay is only if you want that, right?
If it's on standalone, right. It's included with the online payments part if you're going that route. So it's only if it's standalone, you have to pay for it.
There you go.
And just one more thing, there is a $175 setup fee for any of this stuff. So it's a one-time fee. It's just for us to get your instance established in the data center. Oh, there, it's up there, yeah.
And yes, everybody, that is $175 one-time setup. So I'll just ask my question related to that. Where does the portal get hosted?
In our data centers. So the portal pages themselves, where that HTML sits, is in our data centers. The data stays inside wherever the merchant Sage 300 is, and it's only presented on the page as a customer requests it. Yeah. So we do host those portal pages. Yeah,
and your data center is in a secure data center location.
It is. It's not an Etienne's closet. It's in a certified data center that they have locations, I believe, Toronto and Vancouver that we work with, the company that we deal with. It's a professional.
In North America, yeah.
Okay, So the other questions I have are related to the web store. And the first one is, how long does a web store take to implement?
Yeah, it's a bit more of an involved process, of course, than the customer portal. As Etienne explained, you can have that up and running before you go home tonight. The web store takes more work. Obviously, he talked about the design part of it, and that is honestly probably one of the longer parts of the whole process, is getting that design right. You want that to be, it's your, your window, or the world's window into your business. You want to get that right. So after the design is done, however, we typically will take 60 to 90 days, I guess, depending on how complex the site is, anywhere from 2 to 3 months to bring a site live. So just build that into your planning if that's something you want to work on. Design will take, well, it's hard to put a time frame on that, because different customers take different lengths of time. We've had some guys drag this out forever and ever, and other people get it done quickly. Ideally, our goal is to get this done within 30 to 60 days, I think, in an ideal situation. But again, we rely so much on the feedback and the cooperation and the responsiveness of the customer in order to make this whole process come out in a timely fashion. So
Of
if
course,
we
and
get,
the complexity that they're looking for in the templates and the function. So
exactly, yeah.
totally agree. And then, of course, that leads into, what does a web store cost?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those questions, like how long is a piece of string? Because it depends on features and functionality. So the way we sort of structure it is we have a number of bundles of functionality, I guess, if you want to call it that. So from your simplest business to consumer site, that could be anywhere from, and I'll just quote you a sort of capital cost. We also have a subscription option, which kind of offloads the front end burden and just, puts it into a monthly plan. But say as low as $20,000 to build the site for a B2C. And then there is monthly managed services, because we do host these sites, we do manage them, we do all the backups, we do everything to make sure that that site stays running, monitoring it 24/7 and all that. So that's usually around $635 a month. Now, if you switch that over to a full-on subscription model, you're probably looking at $4,500 setup fee, and in at about $1,000 a month. Now you can go on to the other end of the spectrum, where you've got a full featured B2B, B2C with all the bells and whistles that a lot of our guys can have. You may get a site that goes up over $40,000 as a capital cost. So, extrapolate from there what you think that might be. It depends, I guess, is the question, but those are some rough numbers about what you might see. Oh, and incidentally, on the subscription side of things, that $1,000 number I quoted does include the managed services. So let's say you had a full-on business to business, business to consumer, it was a $40,000 site. You're probably looking at, I don't know, maybe $10,000 up front and somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a month. And I'm going off the top of my head, I haven't done the math on this, but it's going to be something like that, right?
No, and just a quick follow on is, do people ever start with the customer portal and then move out into the more full B2B, I guess it would be, web store?
Yeah, and actually that's something that's we've seen over the past year, since the pandemic hit. People needed to get online quickly, and that's why we put so much effort into the customer portal and expanding its capabilities, because it was a quick, easy, and inexpensive way for folks to get online to serve their customers. And then you take the time to start working on the web store to get it exactly the way you want it, and that nice experience for your customers. It gives them the buying experience that they want and you want for them, that properly represents your brand and your image, and gives them a great experience.
Okay. All right. Well, we had some good questions there. We had some good poll results. We got some great demonstrations. Etienne, I thank everybody for coming, but you mentioned we might just for a few minutes talk about what the sales rep might see in the customer portal, since we were focused more on the customer side of the customer portal. Do you want to just jump back to that? I know we're a bit over time, but
Sure.
if you don't mind doing that, and then we can end off from there. And if anybody's got any other questions, please put them in the chat, or the questions.
Okay. Again, two versions of what that looks like. There is the the portal version, which will allow your sales rep to be out there, with his cell phone or tablet, and he's going to deal with the customer sitting in front of him. On the portal, this is the back end, the administration side of the portal. You need to just set up a salesperson. So we'll go add a user here. Remember this screen here that we saw in the beginning, except here we can now add, are we registering a user, merchant, or salesperson? If we register a salesperson here, then we have two levels of access. Number one, we can maintain the salesperson only access to those AR accounts on which he is a salesperson. So, within accounts receivable, you can add up to 5 salespeople to a particular account. That allows us to have kind of concentric circles ever expanding. So I can have a salesperson has access to 10 accounts, and then a sales manager has access to the 10 accounts of each one of his 5 salespeople underneath him. And then we have the regional manager, and he can have, yada, yada, yada. So we can contain who I have access to based on the fact that you are one of the salespeople attached to that customer. And then, of course, we need to know what your salesperson code is. So within Sage, you're going to set up a salesperson code for them. If you don't already have that, we need that salesperson code here so that we can make sure that we're going to allow him access only to those customers which he has the salesperson code of. The second is just a blanket access. So if I check that on, then that really doesn't matter anymore. Now I have access to all my customers. This is functionality which we are expanding, currently in development. So we want to go beyond just a normal portal access, and we want to be able to show the salesperson data like show me all my customer orders, or show me my sales numbers for the past N period of time. But also give me access to inventory. How much products do we have? In which warehouses are they? Those products which are on PO, when am I expecting them to come in? So that when you're sitting with a customer, you can give him a lot more sensible information. Currently, we don't have that, but I expect that will be there within a month. We have pushed that into production. When I then log in as a salesperson, what it's going to do right off the bat is ask me, who do I want to deal with? So I'm now logging in as a salesperson. So the first question here is, who do I have access to? And I can type in, any amount of detail. It's going to list those. So I can type in a phone number and email a customer account number. So anything starting with 200, show me those. Oh, that is only Ronald Black. But I can search for a variety of things that I want to deal with. Once I've selected it, I am then drilling in, and I'm literally seeing that customer account in front of me. So I can then deal with that customer. I can take payments. I can place an order. I can answer questions about the orders that are outstanding for him. And as I say, we will be adding functionality, so there will be new icons appearing if I'm a salesperson that allow me access to detail which the customer very obviously doesn't have access to. Product information, quantity information, pricing information, sales history, and so forth. The other option lies, of course, in the full Webtelligence system, and I can show some of that. Within the Webtelligence system, there some LTD online, I think. Within the full e-commerce system, we have a lot more functionality that we can expose because all of the data is now available to us. So we have the ability for the salesperson to likewise assume, if you will, the identity of the client and be able to see all the client's information, etc. But we also have the ability for the salesperson to stand, if you will, separate from that, but still transact on behalf of a particular customer, but then have a lot more additional information. So let me log in. And I'm going to log in as a salesperson. Do I have this right? No, not now. Don't do that. Let me try again. Otherwise, I may need to ask Pete for his login information here. Ta-da! Okay, so I have now logged in as a salesperson. I can assume the identity of a client, or I can look at my own identity. Again, these are very familiar things. So there's a component of the portal here, account activity, view transaction, pay my accounts, open orders. I also now have the ability to reorder, to manage shipping, manage billing, but I have a sales rep function here as well. Within that sales rep function, we've then exposed a more comprehensive order entry form, because I now want to transact on behalf of other people. So I can now go and say, I want to deal with Barmart, go and fetch me Barmart here. Ooh. Okay, Bargain Mart. As a salesperson, I can now override the customer types, the salesperson, etc., put comments in, delivered, expected ship dates, and I can go ahead and process. And remember, we spoke about the ability to override or not override, to select units of measure, to override the price to $10 for this customer, and so forth. So I can now transact in a lot, in a much more comprehensive way what I want to do. Likewise, we can then open up as a salesperson here. I'll be able to see a lot more information about products. So for example, I can go to accessories, drill into a particular accessory list, and now see price breaks, which a normal user cannot see. I have quantity on location, quantity available here. Very typically, we'll allow a drill down into that so you can see what's on sales order, purchase order, etc. So the salesperson has access to the same information, and then some which you don't necessarily want to show to a normal customer. I hope that's a broad enough overview of the specific question. I'll be happy to answer those for you.
So, Will, I think that probably wraps up everything we wanted to cover today. Like Etienne says, if somebody wants to get into more detail on any of this stuff, we'd be happy to set up one-on-one sessions with you and with them and go over their specific situation. Everyone's situation is different. So, I mean, that's certainly what we're willing to do if you have any requirements in that area. I think you're on mute, Will.
Huh? With Will on mute, I'm happy to sing a song, but probably probably not. Welcome back.
Find the mute button.
Yeah. So, Peter, I'm going to make you the presenter just as we end this.
Yeah.
And from there, we will we'll just show our contact info.
Yeah. And
then, of course, this was recorded, so we're going to have everybody. Everybody's going to get the recording, and of course, we'll follow up with the people. But I want to thank you both for this broad amount of info. It's a very interesting couple of options. I really like, that you can start with the basic portal, be up and running, literally in a day or less, and have your ability to transact with your customers and even have your reps go in and be able to work with their customers. And then if somebody needs a full comprehensive B2C or B2B store or both, they can start to move forward with that and still be working with their clients electronically. So I thank you both. It's been great, seeing the changes and the advancements your team's made in the products as we've gone through the last year and beyond. So I thank you all, and I wish everybody a great day. Stay safe, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, have a good day.